So it's 20 minutes. I'll go over the format with you now. So I'll let you, so welcome, Ms. Gray. The format is we're trying to go a little more in depth, allow you the opportunity to go a little more in depth. It's a 20-minute time limit. That's the only time limit. You can take as much of that 20 minutes as you choose. I do have 7 questions. You don't have to go through them all. If on the very first question you want to just talk for 20 minutes because it's something you're passionate about, you're welcome to do that. Our goal is to get a little deeper than some of the things have done, because people are hearing the same kind of 2-minute answer over and over again on panels. Yeah. And they'd like something a little more in depth from the candidates. So like I said, our questions are just there to guide you if you need something to talk about, but you're welcome to use the time however you want. The only limit is 20 minutes. So do you have any questions on the format?
No. I guess I'll introduce myself first, correct?
Yep.
Is that right?
So I'll start with the first question, and then however you want to use your time, and talk about who you are, what you do, all of that within the 20 minutes. Okay?
Sure. Yeah. Can people see me or not?
They can. Yep. So right now, what people are seeing on the video is that it's a screen divided between you and I, and in just a second, they'll see the question, and then it'll go back to the video screen.
Okay, I guess they saw me put on lipstick.
I'll edit as much as I can. At the beginning, I'm trying to make sure. That's why I tried to stop and do the format again. So I will do as much as I can at the beginning.
Okay. All righty. That sounds fine.
So there you go. So the first question is, tell me what you love about public schools.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well, being as I've been a teacher for 30 or more years in public schools, I love the idea that there's just so much that children can receive from public education. You think about now the nurses are acting like it's kind of like an emergency center now where kids can go and get really good health care for diabetes, for asthma. And then you think about the teachers, the quality, they get nationally board certified. Many of them have masters. Now they're very adept with technology because of the e-learning. Our teachers really, I think I always marvel on them because I've been a teacher, and there's just so much excellence that students can gain from the quality of teaching. I also love the extracurricular activities that they have, everything from chorus and track, and now the girls have Girls on the Run in the middle schools. And, it just goes on and on. The eclectic nature of public schools is, drama, performing arts, STEM. There's engineering. When I went to school, and maybe some of your viewers, we didn't have all these dimensions. The only concern, and I'll finish with this, the big concern, of course, is a lot of this has been contoured, limited by the standards, the FSA standards, which interestingly, I taught at Jesuit also. And at a, not a charter school, a religious school, very small school. I was an adjunct professor there, and we didn't have standards. We didn't have testing standards, and yet all of those children went to college. So, I taught way before they had those parameters. And because I had such a love of teaching and could teach however I wanted to, just like how I'm talking right now, how I feel about things. And I always could teach the child or the school or the class towards what they needed. And I ordered the books that they can read, and I ordered materials, educational materials that they would enjoy. And that was a very nice way of being able to be a public school teacher. It's a little bit more difficult now, and then / now with the COVID and the online coming up. So I think I'll just stop right there because eventually I better introduce myself.
So I can go back, and we usually do that at the end, but I can do that right now. This is Lynn Gray. She's running for Hillsborough County School Board District 7 countywide, and then you can work whatever you want to say about yourself into subsequent questions when I ask about school board, if you'd like to.
Okay.
So the next are, what are the attributes of an effective school board member? Which attributes are your strengths and which do you struggle with?
Well, I have a very strong instructional background, that is for sure. And I do, I've been a department head, and when we converted to middle schools, I worked with Superintendent Mary Ellen Ilya. So I've done massive, how do you want to say, bureaucratic changes. And being that I have taught in elementary, middle, and high school, I have strengths in the developmental years of all those grades. And that's, to me, a very huge advantage, because I not only know the students, but I also know the teachers and their needs. And I think that as I go through with the strengths that I have, I can say that I owned a $250,000 business, a training center, a running training center. If the audience doesn't know, I am an avid athlete, and I had that. A lot of hirees and a lot of bookkeeping, accounting, and I have those fiscal background points that I think has come in very handy. I do have a lot of strength in the business department, because when I pushed for the referendum, and I think, Melissa, you remember that in March 2019, I pushed for it 4 times on that school board. And because fiscally we were in bad shape. And then later on, as we know, I pushed for the impact fees, but I had to work on that with the Home Builders Association for almost 5 months before. And then, of course, our county commissioners. One of my strengths too is I work across the aisle and with the aisle, so I can work with the mayors. I can call them up. We do things together. The county commissioners. I just had our new superintendent meet with Stacy White, Mariella Smith, Pat Kemp. So all the while, those relationship strengths in local government have been powerful. And I use them right now for the benefit of our superintendent. And then the strengths I also have, I'll get to my weaknesses in a minute. I'm sure I have some, but the idea of local communities, I mean, I work with maybe more than 25 African-American educational leaders with my African-American studies. Just last week, I also met with about, I'd say 18 to 22 Hispanic leaders, community leaders, and our staff. We are looking at now with our new diversity person, Monica Torito. She and I are going to, obviously, I've been listening to them for the last 4 months, but we're going to start making an impact on more translators, more ways to find who is gifted, because a lot of these students, they are very meek and their self-esteem is very low, and consequently their giftedness gets kind of like overlooked, and I want that to be looked at. I also help set up the Wi-Fi centers, so Hispanic places way afar in Waimama, Dover, Ruskin, South Shore, Riverview. We have a great need to make sure technology is out in those communities. And the only way you can know front and center is to really be there. You have to be there. And I've lived out in Riverview, and I've lived in South Tampa, and I've lived northeast, northwest Tampa, taught in those areas. So I have a real good advantage and a strength in knowing what the community and the pulse of the community is. I would say the weakness, if there is any, I think it would be just my general personality is always trying to do too much, because I get very excited and enthusiastic. And, I have since learned that the school board works at a very slower pace, or I should say our district, because it's so large. But I would say sometimes that could be a weakness in how I think And but other than that, I don't think about weakness at all. I think about my strength, the district strength, our staff strengths, my community folks' strengths. I use everybody for, you know, for all of us to work together to get things accomplished, and that is known. That's known throughout the district.
So the next question shouldn't be a surprise coming from the Alliance for Public Schools, since we are a family and community engagement organization. What role does family and community engagement play in public schools?
Well, it's critical, because if you don't have parental involvement and community leaders, stakeholders that can help, fiduciary, and the community backing, then you're missing the heart of the school, because it's the community that makes the school, and not the school makes the community. So we have a long way to go, Melissa, to get the community in some areas in the urban core, not South County. We have a lot of the Hispanic folks that do, but the migrant population, with the language being a barrier, that's hard for them to get engaged. So what I've done is I've asked our Superintendent Davis to make sure those community, family community centers, he calls them now, to be put in each of those areas, so there is much more adaptation. For example, if your child went to Ruskin Elementary, you would need, and you had not transportation, you would need a place nearby for online support, for first aid, for food pantry, for maybe glasses, you know, things of need. And plus, a parent needs to have those who can identify with the matters that are relevant to the population. So we'll take again in Ruskin, there's a lot of hunger, there's trauma, there's a lot of poverty out there, lack of clothing. There are real basic needs, and the community must have a place, in my view. I know they can go to school right now, but a place where they can be gaining reinforcements, tangibles that will make or break their livelihood. So what happens when we don't have school a place for them to pick up food after July? So now we have to think, you know, got to make sure they have grab and goes. What about childcare? What are we going to do with childcare if there's all online learning? And that was a question also that's been coming up frequently. So then you have to have those links like the Boys and Girls Club. You have to have places that at least the community liaison, if it's in our jurisdiction, just like Lucas, she's our liaison. She has to be able to say to parents, hey, this is a person you can call for childcare. This is a place that you can depend on for transportation. And I'm going to say something right now. The Why Enterprising has set up through their chamber, through their business area, transportation for people in Waimama, and because many of them don't have a car. So what I'm saying is these community centers would be a place that parents can be offered, and their children can have real life assistance, and of course educational supports. So that's something I'm really working on with Superintendent Davis now.
Okay, you have about 7 minutes left, just so that you know about your time. You're doing great, but just so that you know your time if you're not watching the clock. So if you were elected to serve this term on the board, how do schools, the district, and community look different in 4 years?
Oh, yes. I think you're seeing a metamorphosis now of obviously to technology, and the idea that it came so quickly in March it's not unusual, say in North Carolina, they've been doing online learning for years. But for us, it's a big transition. So right now, I would say within 2 years or so, a high school will definitely look like a junior college. I mean, we already have dual enrollment and many paths to go right to college. In fact, I'm working on a vocational center, HCC and I, and Ken Atwater and Superintendent Davis to put one out in Plant City, which takes the high school, puts it right into an HCC certified courses. So I think in middle school, I often think that middle school needs to be combined with the elementary K-8. It's just it's an elevated way of camaraderie, teacher unity, curriculum unity, and our superintendent wants unity. He wants a more unified way of presenting curriculum and discipline, or I shouldn't say discipline, but behavior management, but any of those initiatives. So I would say within the 4 years, I hope that we would get more of the K-8s and simply get rid of some of that wasted space, because middle schools served a purpose. When we first had middle schools, we had like separate 7th grade centers. We had separate 6th, 7th grade centers. It was crazy. So we did establish middle schools because the research showed that was a separate age group and they needed separate needs. And, at the time, this was in the 80s, it was a viable working type of model, but not so. I think we'll go to K-8s, and that's what I'm going to, advocate. So that's that answer.
Okay. So what kind of school board member are you, and will you be if reelected?
Oh, I'm a very collaborative person, and I've lived too many years and taught too many of them, and know Tampa. I've lived here for 58 years, so I have a tendency. I'm just who I am. I'm business minded, and I'm conservative, and I'm a teacher. So I work with people that care about kids, and if they care about kids and they're working for the kids, that's all I need. And if they're honest, I don't need much from anybody other than I need to work with those who are like-minded and work for the common goal of the welfare of all kids. So that's how I operate. And even with my business partners, they all know. I mean, a lot of people, Melissa, that may even be watching, if they're male. I mean, many of the people and females I taught so many people in those 30 years, actually 40 combined, that, I find a lot of the constituents have been students of mine. So, I have a very big comfort level.
Okay, so we're down to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You have 2 questions. This one is, what are the responsibilities of the school board and individual school board members related to public education advocacy?
So we make policy and procedures. And for advocacy, say the LGBT, which is a policy I'm working on now, they get harassed, and they still do in a very mean way. So I'm putting into policy, I'm putting a zero tolerance policy. And now that's an advocacy for the LGBT. I'm also going to do it for the Muslim community in another way. But the point is, I'm just one board member. So when I have policy, they have to vote on the changes as well. So I advocate for, I'm a human rights person, and I spend a lot of time with the high needs population, because 64% of our population is poverty or below poverty level. And I have a tendency to work in that demographic very closely. And I am their voice. I try to be anyway.
Okay, you have 2 minutes and 15 seconds for what does constituent outreach and constituent service look like under you as a school board member?
constituent service. Is that what you just said, Melissa? I can't
Yeah,
even read.
what does constituent outreach and constituent services look like under you as a school board member?
Well, I mean, I kind of shared that I definitely believe in the community family centers. And outreach to me, let me just say this, people call me on the phone. I don't even ask who it is. I answer to everybody and anybody. I write emails. My outreach is through my forums right now. I am in schools. Sometimes I just sit down with the kids and, I even, I just substituted last year in Sulphur Springs just to help because we were so short of subs. So, I mean, I'm out there and I enjoy it. I love talking to the teachers and to the students. And now I have grandkids, so I'm probably going to read, if the virus gets under control, I plan on reading at Beavis once a week to the small kids, kindergartens, because that's where my granddaughter is. But I go wherever the constituents want me to go. I mean, that's it. I just drive around. If you've ever been to Atlanta, there's what is called a perimeter, big circle there. Smile, Melissa, if you've ever been there. Okay.
I'm trying not to react. I'm promising everybody being neutral.
Yeah. So anyway, I am always on a perimeter. So if I get a call, I just get off and exit, or I'll just, make an appointment to make sure I see it. It's more than a full-time job for me, but I love it. And, I've retired 3 times, and this is something I love doing. So at any rate, I'm always on duty.
You have 22 seconds left. If there's anything that you haven't said that you would like to.
Well, I guess at the end of forums, sometimes I'm expected to ask for support for my reelection. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Do whatever you want. The floor is yours.
So my website is Lynn Gray for School Board, and I would love to have everyone support their vote. And you can write me anytime. Certainly, if you donate, that would be appreciated. But if and by the way, I don't know if you shared, I just got the TBT, Tampa Bay Times endorsement. I have the Equality Florida endorsement. I have the CTA endorsement. I have the AFL-CIO endorsement.
And that's your time.
Okay.
There's your 20 minutes.
Thanks.
There's your 20 minutes. So thank you. No, I know that I should have said to you in the beginning, Ms. Schamberger also mentioned on her video that it was off-putting that I didn't react, but I want this to be about what the people see in you, not about my reaction to it. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible. I should have said this at the beginning, but Ms. Gray and I do know each other. She has been to numerous Alliance for Public Schools events. And so I just like to be transparent that some of the candidates I've never met, but I have met Ms. Gray. And she has come to Alliance events. So I really appreciate your time. I know that being a full-time school board member and then also running for reelection and doing all of these things takes a lot of time. But people have just been reaching out to us so much, wanting to know more about the candidates. We wanted to put something out there. I will be wrapping these up tonight and tomorrow morning, and then we will post both the Hillsborough and Pinellas ones all at the same time. And when they're posted, I will send you a link to the video if you want to use any portion of it to put out to people. You'll have the link so that you can use it for your purposes.
What is your audience, Melissa? Do you know who watches this or who sees it?
This will be sent out. So overall, our audience is parents across the I-4 corridor. We're assuming that most of the people will be here from Hillsborough. It'll also go out to our subscriber list, which is about 18,000 parents in Hillsborough County. It will go out in an email to them with the link. And then we will, those are the people who have been sending us emails, calling us and saying, I need more information about school board candidates. So we'll be responding to them.
Well, that's wonderful. Good. Yeah, they should. They have to learn about the candidates. Okie doke. You want me just to close up then?
I will close up and you will see the meeting end. So thank you so much.